I wanted to move on to some potential explanations as to why we haven't already been contacted, because I think, at least in my mind, we've established that it's quite likely that there could be life outside of planet Earth.
Okay, so my first explanation is aliens don't exist.
Okay, that's one potential one. I don't know why you're being so skeptical.
Because I'll explain why later, but it's just if the universe is so vast and there's been 13 billion years that we've had, if it hasn't happened by now, I don't think it's going to happen.
But the Earth only, I believe, formed about 4 billion years ago. So it took a very long time for there to be planets to form in the first place. And one of the hypotheses is that, well, we're one of the first to develop. It's not that it's something that's necessarily rare in the conditions of the universe, but simply that we beat every other civilization into existence, which is possible because...
Totally. So there are no other aliens, and like we're the first living planet in the universe. That's almost worse.
I think it's worse. It's really depressing, isn't it? Because it almost seems to me like all of this space travel that I'm a big supporter of and a fan of, and I think it's really useful stuff. Yeah. It seems like it's almost for nothing. Sure, we could colonize other planets, but not being able to find anything.
Well, you want to go out there and find some sort of monolith on Mars, right? And be like...
2001 A Space Odyssey is my favourite film of all time.
Yeah,
so
exactly, right?
I want the monolith.
Yeah, exactly. But in fact, no. It's just rock out there. It's just literally nothing but infinite amounts of rock, spaced almost infinite distances apart, and it's cold and empty. Do you want to go out there? No, not really. What was the point? There's no McDonald's.
Well, it reminds me of that study that they did recently with British people saying they wouldn't even go to the moon if they could guarantee safety.
Yeah, there's nothing there.
I think that's ridiculous.
It's just rocks.
But I'd love to go to the moon, even if it's just to get a nice view of the Earth. It's still one of those things where you're going to remember that for the rest of your life. It's not like, oh, how was your holiday? Oh, I only went to the moon. Oh, it's boring. There wasn't much to do.
There's nothing there. What did you do? I spent 2 weeks wandering around on the moon.
But the nothing is the appeal.
Okay.
As in, it's so far removed from our own perspective on this world that...
I side with the 50% of people who are like, no, there's nothing there. There are aliens there, okay?
By the end of these two contemplations, you're going to be convinced. You're going to be going up to the moon. You're going to be looking for Martian civilizations up there.
Thing is, right, I'm very much on the I want to believe train. Right, I would like to believe that is the case. But I just can't seem to bring myself to actually believe in something like this. Like it's just it's a giant empty universe. That's the most realistic explanation. And the thing is, it's also the most boring, and that's how life tends to be. You know, that's how every frontier we pass, we're like, oh, are there dragons and aliens? No, there's nothing. Oh, there's nothing over here as well. Oh, there's nothing over here. And so we've totally demystified the entire universe, and there's just nothing of any interest.
There's still lots of mysteries.
There might be some bacteria on an asteroid somewhere. Oh, brilliant.
That's alien life.
That is, no, not until it's passed through the birth canal of a woman is it life. I'm going to go and abort it, okay?
So non-human animals, not living things.
Yeah.
That's Carl 2023.
Well, they've been through birth canals. But the point is, you know, it's going to be very uninteresting to the average person.
So hang on a minute. If someone has a cesarean, they're not a living thing.
You're taking this a lot more literally than I was.
I'm being needlessly pedantic, of course.
But the point being, like people want to talk to an alien civilization, discover what it is that their perception of the universe is, and gain greater understanding of themselves and the universe around them. But we're not going to have that. That's the thing. I really don't think that's going to happen. I'm far more inclined to believe that the government will fake it using holograms than I am that we'll actually meet an alien.
Okay, well...
Honestly, I know I don't want to be a horrible skeptic, and I'm happy to indulge all of this, but like when it comes to it, I just don't believe, man. And it's terrible. Well,
that's setting me up with a challenge now. So
yeah, it is, yeah.
I like that. So back to the explanations. Of course, this is probably the one you agree with the most. The rare Earth hypothesis is that Earth-like planets with the conditions necessary for the emergence of complex life and intelligence in the universe are more rare than we thought, which is, I think, probably your position, isn't it?
Well, it seems to be there's only one.
What do you mean?
An Earth-like planet with
right, yes,
intelligent
of course,
life.
yeah. As far as we know, yeah. So another one is the self-destruction hypothesis, that technological civilizations tend to self-destruct. And the reasons often listed are nuclear war, environmental destruction, and artificial intelligence. I think out of the three of those, the artificial intelligence is probably the most likely, in my opinion.
But the thing is, then you'd expect to see some sort of galactic AI empire, right? Because if it's just this self-propagating AI with no real life behind it.
But I think that the nature of AI would not necessarily make it. It doesn't. It might not have an innate curiosity that might drive it to the stars. It might turn the planet into a giant supercomputer and call it done. And they're like, well, that's it.
Oh yeah, I mean that's entirely possible. Yeah. Who knows? Yeah. But you'd expect some sort of remnants of all of this, some sort of debris, something. You know, like we're pumping out like radio and TV signals into the universe, and we have been doing for like 70, 80 years or whatever. And so it's like, okay, so eventually we'd expect to be able to, you know, accidentally pick up some, you know, Alpha Centaurian TV with these aliens being like, no, we're going to nuclear war with this other.
I mean, I don't know whether TV channels can be picked up in outer space. I imagine
you know what I mean, though, right? Like when
there
are
like, certainly signals.
We've got radio signals from here. Asking, what's alien radio then? So
but to be fair, it's been in a universal sense. It's been quite a short amount of time that we've been emitting these signals.
Sure.
In that the distances they've got to travel, even to the nearest star, is still great.
But in the universe is 13 billion years old. Like there are going to be planets that are literally billions of years older than Earth.
Mm-hmm.
Where are their signals? You know,
maybe they've still not reached us yet. They could be so far away that the civilization could be 1 billion years old, far more advanced than we are, but the signals still not reach us because of the sheer amount of distance that they've got to travel.
And there's something even worse about that. So, okay, you know that there is literally on the other side of the universe an alien civilization, but you literally just can't get there.
You can't interact with them. It's quite frustrating in a way, even though I think that interacting with such a civilization might be a mistake.
Sure, I agree. And that's another point. I don't really want aliens. Like, what if they're like Vogons or something?
Well, they would love our planet because we've already got so many bureaucrats here.
Exactly, but then they demolish it to make way for an intergalactic highway. So, like, you know, it's just a simpler life to not have aliens in it. I think that's why I'm skeptical about it.
I think that's a fair. It would be simpler. That is perfectly reasonable.
Bloody aliens as
well. Illegal aliens, already bad enough.
Yeah.
Another one, which you mentioned earlier, is the zoo hypothesis, that they're aware of our existence but choose not to make contact to preserve our isolation. I think that this is one of the more compelling ones to my mind. If aliens do exist, that would probably be a good reason not to interact, because they want to leave our culture to develop to a point where it could be comparable. Because if you reach out to a civilization where the power dynamic is so out of whack, is going to interfere with how that civilization develops. They could, in theory, put all of their resources into weapons, which then could be used on one another and wipe them out.
We don't know that this isn't some sort of human reservation where we're running human casinos for the aliens. But this is the thing.
What do you mean human casinos?
Like the Native Americans.
Oh, right.
Like, you know, we're on the reservation. But the thing is, like, we don't know. Like, we say zoo, but that the assumption behind that is relatively benign. But we don't know that
it's more a nature preserve. I think zoos are an uncharitable term.
But we don't. But still, the intention behind it is benign. We don't know if let's assume there were aliens and they were visiting Earth, and they had been probably for some time, and they wanted to keep their presence from us secret for some reason. We have no idea what those reasons might be. We have no idea. Like this, they could be keeping us trapped in a position of eternal torment, and we just don't know it, because we're just used to the torment, and they could be draining our psychic energies from the torment or something. I don't know. You know, like we assume that they would have some sort of beneficent intention, but like there's no particular reason to think that they would have the same sort of moral structure as us.
I like to think of it with a bit of an analogy to, it's like what a dog thinks its owner thinks.
Yeah.
And that is a bit demeaning to human intelligence, but The principle's
we're
still
dealing
there.
with super advanced aliens.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
But a dog doesn't understand whether you're doing something for its own good or not. If you're taking it to the vet, it just thinks you're being mean to it because it sees the consequences of what it's doing rather than the bigger picture.
Well, actually, I've got to say, I've had pets I've had to take to vet support, and they've never been resentful afterwards. So I assume that they get the idea that this is necessary, you know, and because you're sympathetic to the thing while it's undergoing the operation and stuff. So I get the thing they understand it a bit better than we give them credit for that. But
I've had dogs before when I've caught them trying to eat chocolate. Yeah. And then I take it off of them and tell them off. Yeah. And then they sit in the corner and sulk.
It's like, that's going to kill you.
Yeah.
You idiot. Yeah.
But it is that sort of thing whereby we might not be at a point where we can understand their intentions to a degree, a civilizational sense. I'm sure that individuals could, in theory, understand the intentions of the aliens. They can't be that complicated, can they? Really?
What if they are? What if they're literally beyond human understanding? There's an actual IQ barrier here, you know?
It is entirely possible.
I mean, what if it turns out that actually we're the product of aliens and we've created as slaves to mine gold, like David Icke was saying? Like, what if that actually turns out to be true? I mean, chaos. Absolute chaos.
But I think that sort of argument is quite unlikely because surely it's easier just to make the gold yourself than create an entire civilization to mine it on a planet.
Yeah, but what if they create an entire civilization because they like to see us suffer?
Well, you would wonder how they got to be a civilization in the first place with that sort of mindset, because to be a civilization, you need a certain amount of pro-sociality to your nature.
Sure, with our own in-group. We're very social to our own. This is what the Romans and the Assyrians were like. They had like very parochial moralities. And so they themselves had like, you know, laws and governance and things, but they would just enslave other races. They didn't care.
But even in hunter-gatherer times, people had respect for animals. They might have relied on them for food, but they still honoured them and even worshipped them.
Sure. But the Romans used to kill them in arenas.
Yeah, well, the Romans aren't the best example of human morality, to be fair. And
sure, but there's no reason that the aliens wouldn't have that sort of morality either.
I think that there's the more technological and apparently civilized a society gets, the more more the individuals have to depend on one another, and therefore there's a selection pressure to be more and more pro-social.
Surely the point of technology is so we're less dependent on our fellow man.
Well, you would think, wouldn't you? I would like it to be that.
I would think that, yeah. But anyway, the only thing I'm saying is the aliens probably wouldn't share our moral values.
Sure. Another hypothesis is that other civilizations may use different modes of communication than the technology we have, and therefore we can't pick up their signals. And they might not be deliberately emitting ones that we can pick up because there's no one there to listen to them.
Yeah, no, that's totally fair.
Another one, which I think is highly possible as well, is that interstellar travel is too difficult. And I think with our current understanding, this is quite likely because we don't know.
This is the blue balls hypothesis.
The what?
The blue balls hypothesis. So
how does
there are
that get
aliens
its name?
over there, but we just can't go and visit them.
Oh, right, I see.
You know, we just can't do it.
It meant what I thought it meant.
Yeah.
To watch the full video, please become a premium member at lotuseaters.com.